Welcome back, Delt Nation. It is the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving 2022. I'm your host, Vince Russo, and we are steadily rolling right along here toward the lunch hour here on the East Coast. We are sitting at 125 gifts, which has amassed over $61,257 support for all the various initiatives around Delta Tau Delta via the Educational Foundation. In a moment, you'll hear a sit-down interview that I was able to have with International President Bruce Peterson. But before we do that, we want to highlight two very important funds that you may consider contributing to if, one, you haven't made a gift yet, or two, you have that itch to give another gift before the end of the Delt Day of Giving this year in 2022. The Carnia Fellowship is especially timely as we trek forward towards the 2022 Carnia in Norfolk, Virginia. We'll have Andy Longo to talk a little bit more about that later today, along with a video getting everyone excited for the experience over there in Virginia this year. The Carnia Fellowship Fund allows undergraduates from various chapters to have the resources possible to go to the Carnia and have that life-changing experience. I myself benefited from this and the other fund that I'm going to mention in just a moment, as I was a founding father of Zeta Mu chapter back in the mid-2010s. And our chapter, as we got our footing under us, didn't really have all of the financial resources as we built our infrastructure. But no issues there. The Educational Foundation were able to send myself and another delegate to that experience, which we still talk about to this day, and which I still have relationships that formed at that very Carnia that withstand the past 5 years. Of note also is the New Chapters and Colony Fund. The fraternity has added plentiful flags in the past 2 years to new campuses and returned to many that we've been at and had historic success at in yesteryear, including Colorado State and University of Pittsburgh, just to name a few. When you support the New Chapters and Colony Fund, you enable these new groups that continue to build their own infrastructure and learn how to really do the ins and outs of being a stellar Delt chapter by offsetting costs for Division Conference, Ignite, the Charge, other opportunities to experience educational opportunities that only continue to cultivate leaders within those chapters and show that the Delt experience is something that they are glad they have joined. So those are just a couple funds to keep in mind. Again, we are trekking forward, 62,457 raised, a couple more gifts coming in just in the last few minutes. And again, we'll turn it over here to Bruce Peterson. I'm going to check out for a little bit. We're getting some chicken nuggies here for the whole crew. We'll be back in the 1 o'clock hour here on the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving 2022. Enjoy this exclusive interview with International President Bruce Peterson. Hello, Delt Nation. It is the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving 2022. I'm your host, Vince Russo, and our guest right now is none other than the International President of Delta Tau Delta, Bruce Peterson. Bruce, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's always a great day to be a Delt.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Really appreciate you joining us here on the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving. It's hard to believe that a whole year has already gone by. But, Bruce, for our viewers at home, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the role as the International President of the fraternity.
So let me start off by saying that I retired at the end of 2019 with a high desire with Jill and I to go out and travel. And that never happened, all because of COVID-19. And we actually had reservations to go to Europe, and we were thinking about going to Australia. So I can just tell you that we have a very huge pent-up demand to want to go travel. And there is kind of good news with that pent-up demand, because I did ask Jill to kind of, what can we do when I step down in August from being president? And we're going to be traveling. So she's already got arrangements where we're going to do a little bit of island hopping in Hawaii, spend a couple of weeks in Kauai. And I'm hoping we'll be able to catch up with some of that lost time we had with traveling. The other thing I wanted to kind of say is I'm also anxious to get back to advising. So this next weekend, I'm going to be installing Ryan Ring as the chapter advisor at the University of Wisconsin. And I hope to join his team this fall. And it's the best job in the fraternity. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. So that's another thing I'm looking forward to outside being international president. And, it's just, I'll just say getting on with life. I mean, we just haven't had a normal life for 2 years. And so Jill and I are looking forward to just breaking out and doing things that we haven't been able to do.
That's fantastic. It's great to hear that even after all that you've already given, that you're still looking and you still have that spirit for the fraternity and wanting to be around it and be involved with it. I really think that that's awesome. Now you talk about getting back into a normal life and traveling a little bit. What are some other hobbies that you're looking to dive back into, or even just spend a little more time with once you're able to step away from being on the board of directors in the Arch chapter?
That's a really good question, because I haven't had, other than one, I really made time for it, but the other one I haven't. So I'll start with the one I hadn't had time to make time for. I'm passionate about a club I belong to. It's called Model A's. I happen to have a 1930 four-door Model A in great pristine shape. It runs wonderfully. And the thing about joining the club was all about taking traveling excursion trips with them. And I haven't had any ability to do that for the last 2 years. And it was one of the reasons why I retired, because I wanted to take trips to Pennsylvania or take Highway 66 and all this stuff. So the car's coming out next week. It's in storage. I'm going to get it prepped for traveling. And Jill and I are ready to go this summer to start taking some trips. But that might interfere a little bit with my second passion or hobby, which is baseball. So I'm in my 5th year playing hardball, 9 innings, stealing, hardball, the whole 9 yards. And I'm literally looking forward to playing this year, because I played in the over 60s league for the last 4 years. This year I've been asked to come and play in the 55 league, which I took as a huge compliment.
Of course.
I play outfield, and I specifically play more left field, but I'm okay in center and right. It's all the same. This year we went from 5 teams to 8 teams, and so the rosters got a little smaller because they were trying to fan it out a little bit. So the manager, I went to a new team, by the way, so that even changed a little bit. But during our practices we've had already, I've already been talked to about relieving as catcher and even relieving as pitcher, which I'm kind of gunned up for. I can't wait to do that. But one of the things I wanted to mention to you that, and I think you may have already heard this from me, and maybe was one of the biggest things that happened to me in baseball was back in 2019 in the fall, where I had the fortune to go and play at the 62 plus Shoeless Joe Jackson tournament at the Field of Dreams. And it was really a dream come true. It is everything that the movie made it out to be. It is magical in my mind. And what really happened that weekend, I played the best baseball of my life, absolutely the best baseball of my life, where I'm in left field, the ball hit over my head, and I literally, on a full gallop, catch it over my head. And what happened was the folks in the stands stood and cheered, gave me an ovation. And Vince, I got choked up and I had a tear in my eye. Okay. It made that trip so worthwhile. So between baseball and Model A, I'm anxious for summer to get here.
That's awesome that it all comes back to travel, that you've been able to incorporate getting out and getting out of Wisconsin to be able to experience these different hobbies that you have, that you've cultivated close to home. Turning attention to, a little bit more Delt centric type stuff. You certainly have had an interesting term as international president. We've touched upon the global pandemic and all the residual impacts that have come from that, both for the fraternal landscape, collegiate landscape, our nation and our world. Tell us, through all of that tumultuousness of a global pandemic, what is something that you're most proud of accomplishing during your term as international president?
Well, it's one of those things where I can't really say it's something I did. I'm going to say that it's something that came out of 2 areas. One was, I'm very proud of how our chapters handled themselves during the pandemic. Okay. I think they exercised tremendous leadership, resiliency, and a great amount of patience, to be honest with you, because when you think about it, they're all bottled up, and you know how they like, we're all about being social. So they handled themselves so well during a very chaotic period in our history, and I have to give them a lot of credit. I think they did a great thing. They did things like monitoring and kept track of their brothers, which I think is just admirable, right? They thwarted the isolation problems that we found with COVID-19, where they found ways to connect and create belonging. They found also ways, which I still am amazed that some chapters actually recruited better during COVID than when it's a normal thing. So they found ways to connect and build relationships and recruit And I'm just so amazed at the way our chapters responded during that period of time. And then the other thing that, is, again, not me, but I'm also extremely proud of our fraternity staff and our volunteers. They really stepped up during the pandemic to support our young brothers. And the fraternity is just plain blessed to have such dedicated volunteers and staff in support of our young men. So I'm really proud of what our team did, our fraternity did during this time period than something I did. I may have helped in some ways of ensuring that we were responsive and that we're doing all the things that we need to do to support our young men and our volunteers. But it's definitely our young men and definitely our volunteers and staff that did all the work, and I'm very proud of them.
Could not echo that more, and appreciate you sharing those sentiments. So it seems like now everyone with the state of the world now is looking toward the future. And you yourself talk about looking toward the future, toward the Carnia, where we will install the next international president. With all of these things considered, what is next for Delta Tau Delta? What does the future hold?
Well, I'm going to give you my personal view, and I think we need to better prepare our undergraduate Delts for the workplace. I like to see more formal mentoring programs where Delt alums take on 1 to 3 young Delts and get them ready for the workplace. Even better, imagine if we could get our alum mentors who have the ability to offer these same brothers internships and get them real work experience and get them ready for the workplace. I'd love to see us get into that area over time. I mean, I think we're new and I'll say establishing a lot of the volunteer and mentoring programs. But to me, this seems like a logical next step of really helping our young men understand what it takes to get into the workplace and the things they need to learn and the skills that they have to exhibit so that employers will hire them.
Well, I know you have a tech background, the accessibility and the technology to be able to move those things into place, regardless of geography or things like that. And technology being so much more accessible due to the necessity of using it over the past several years, it does sort of seem like that's something that's maybe more realistic than it has been in the past.
Well, I think the pandemic told us we could do it. We had a virtual Carnia. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that the pandemic opened up for us. And rather than all this face-to-face, I think we now have the means to connect an alum who might be like a technology, like an IT person like myself, with other IT undergraduates and create that fostering of education and understanding of their field. It may even turn out that they may say, maybe that's not the right field for me. But we have a way to do it now that doesn't have to take a lot of effort. It just turn on the PC, fire up the Zoom, and away you go. And I really think this is the thing we need to get into. I'm sure other fraternities may be thinking about this, but I think if we're really truly helping our young men, I'll say, be successful in life, get that career going, I think we have the means to do that today.
That's a great segue. We talk about young men entering their careers. We're getting very close to, and for some campuses, rapidly approaching graduation season. So we wanted to ask you, what are some words of wisdom that you would impart on young men transitioning from that collegiate experience of Delta Tau Delta to that alumni status and into the big open world?
Yeah, I shared this at PresX as well. I really think you just have to show up. Take the risk of doing something outside your comfort zone. You just got to do it. Okay. That's the only way that you're going to learn and advance yourself. And my other advice would be always be prepared. I don't like it when people wing it. You really can see right through that. I know a lot of people think, oh yeah, I could just take. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. You need to be prepared. You need to know your topic. It creates credibility, and you just can't fake credibility. So to me, it's all about being in the moment sometimes, right? Being there and showing up, doing the right things, but also be prepared. I think Jack will tell you, I over prepare. That's just me. So in my life, it's always, I'd rather be, I'll say, able to answer those tough questions without saying, I'll get back to you. And that's just where I come from. But I also think people like it when you can answer more questions rather than having the I don't know. So again, show up, be prepared, and all good things come from that.
Well said. Well said. And so, whether it be these young men transitioning from college into the world, or alumni that have maybe been established in their careers for a little while who are looking to get back involved or even stay involved with Delta Tau Delta, albeit in an alumni sense and not a collegiate sense, what opportunities are out there, and what would you suggest for those Delts looking to get or stay involved?
Yeah, Vince, I'm reminded about our ritual and what it tells us, right? To be mindful and be responsible to those who follow. And I believe we all can speak to how the fraternity benefited us. It's my hope that alums will find the time to assist the chapter, donate their treasure to the foundation to develop leadership programming, scholarships, or even just provide needed undergraduate support services. Further, I think we have so much talent in the fraternity. I'm going to make a little pitch for a different place. I think I would love to see more brothers consider serving on the arts chapter or on the foundation board to lead this great fraternity into a future and to enrich our programming, our services that we offer to both alums and undergraduates. I believe it's worth the time. I think they have the time, and I would love to see more of our brothers, I'll say, step up. If they truly got all that they got out of the fraternity, like I know I did, I think they could contribute tremendously in either a mentoring role up to a board position, which takes a little more time. But I do believe they will benefit from it. They will certainly see how the fraternity works and understand how it affects young men's lives. And to me, that just lights me up. When I see that light go on, or I see that learning curve go, I mean, to me, it is everything. And that's why I get involved, because that's what I experienced. I mean, when I was undergraduate and I started learning these things, it was amazing how it advanced my career, because I was head and tails ahead of the people that were peers with me, because I had the Delt experience and they didn't have any of that, as they had to learn that in their real business experience. So I'm just hoping that our alums are looking retrospectively and saying, what can I do to help the fraternity? And I'm hoping that we'll reach some of them, get more men involved. And I know the undergraduates will certainly appreciate that.
Well said once again. And so, you've mentioned that you yourself have gotten a lot from the fraternity experience, but you've also given a lot back. And so finally, Bruce, we want to ask here, especially with it being the One Delt Day of Giving 2022, you've been an ardent supporter of the foundation for many, many years now. What got you interested in giving back your treasure and keeps you interested in supporting the programs, scholarships, and initiatives for the Delt Educational Foundation?
Yeah, I think it's simple for me. I know what the fraternity did to me and how it changed my life. So it drives me to want to see the good work we do and how it changes the young men's life. And that does take the work we do at the foundation in terms of providing those funds to pay for those services and scholarships and programming. That's what it takes to change a young man's life. Our young men are value and are hungry to learn from older Delts. And they want to be better than themselves. They want to raise their community around them. So I urge all alums to get involved, because you won't regret it, because it's something that you're going to see. It's going to be evidence to you that when we do these kinds of programs for our young men, it truly shows up in how they become truly gentlemen and good men and good citizens. And like I say, from my experience, I would have done nothing different. And I know I gave back in 1979, I think was my first contribution to the foundation. And I got to tell you, I still continue that now, and in the various ways that, in terms of the annual fund or in our capital campaign that we're working on, all these things, I find it to be, it's good for my heart, my soul, and I know it's helping men become better men.
Bruce, well, we certainly appreciate you giving your time as the international president. We appreciate your talent as you have continued to give back your expertise and, of course, your treasure as well, not only today on the One Delt Day of Giving, but since 1979. So, Bruce, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, Delt to Delt, and to talk here on the Delt Day of Giving. We appreciate all that you've done and will continue to do, and we'll make sure to hear from you again soon.
Brother, I appreciate that, and good luck with the with the whole Day of Giving. I know you did a great job last year. I'm sure when I watch it this time, it's going to be just as good. So I wish you all the success in the world, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Bruce. We'll get right back to it here on the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving 2022.